There's the wave. That means we can go. All right, the Ravens have their new head coach. That's where we begin. Jesse Minter is their man. The former Chargers DC has a ton of familiarity in Baltimore as he was a defensive assistant with John Harbaugh for the Ravens from 2017 to 2020. This hiring comes 16 days after they fired John Harbaugh, the franchise's winningest coach. I think we do have Dan now. Let's see. Can I go to him? Dan, you hear me? Oh,
Where's
all right.
Daniel?
So there
Where's
he is.
Daniel?
Dan could not make it on time for the
Dan.
show, but he is here now. Mina said, "Hey, Dan." Dan,
I don't feel like I've ever seen this 4-box.
I like
This is pretty
it.
cool.
This is. I mean, I would prefer to
I
have
like
you
this
all
one. I
right
like this
here,
one.
but this looks cool. Dan, is Minter the right hire for Baltimore?
I think it's a great hire for Baltimore. This guy's been around the Harbaugh family for the last decade, knows how to win. I've had the chance to sit with Jesse for Monday Night Football. I think the two things that stand out, because of his track record, his father was a
Hey, Swagoo, pick it up.
head coach.
Well,
His ability to communicate is awesome. You know,
Go, Marcus.
I got it. Dan, just sit your ass out, okay? Get your stuff together. Listen, but to add on to what Dan was saying, I love the recall. I love that he's been in this organization before, and obviously Steve Bisciotti wanted to go a different direction from Harbaugh, but he brings in a guy with a lot of knowledge of how Baltimore likes to go about their business. The other thing is, dude had really good defenses. Well, with the Chargers, and the Ravens lack pass rush. They lack defensive responsibility and all of those things on the side of football. He had an opportunity to coach Derwin James, which I could imagine that he's excited about getting over there with Kyle Hamilton as well. So it's a lot of things for Jesse Minter to walk into with a lot of familiarity. I'm looking forward to seeing it. It's a different move. John Harbaugh was there for an extremely long time. I think a new voice, some new energy, and the response from the players, especially Lamar Jackson, but the players within the organization, everybody seems excited about this hire. So I think it's going to be a good move forward with a little bit of the old nostalgia of him being around this organization before.
Yeah, I'm a fan of this hire as well. You guys remember when John Harbaugh was let go, I expressed my belief that the Ravens should go defense to try to rediscover their identity on that side of the ball, and I like the defensive candidates, including Jesse Minter. I thought he was excellent in L.A. This year, they were 7th in both EPA per play and success rate, despite the fact that while they have good players, they don't really have the same level of superstars as a lot of the other defenses you would see in that tier. I just think he got the most out of both veteran players. You mentioned Derwin James, who you really saw have kind of a renaissance with him. And obviously there's some, an analog in Kyle Hamilton, but also players like Dante Jackson at cornerback. I think Khalil Mack was excellent. And then young players. There were so many young players in this secondary in the linebacker group that I think played really well under him. So on one hand, you could say, okay, I really like the defensive mind, the scheme, the pressures, the coverage disguise, all of that. But he also appears to be a good teacher and developer of talent, which I think is a really important quality in a head coach.
Yeah, first of all, is it my turn in NFL Squares? I'm very excited about this. Hi, Dan.
We should do a Brady Bunch moment, you guys.
You know what?
There was a story.
Wrong way.
I think it's really cool that the Baltimore Ravens hired Jesse Minter, Harbaugh Jr. Because that's kind of what it seems like, right? He's had an opportunity to work with both John and Jim. And so he has the understanding of delegation. He has the understanding of communication. But I also love the fact that you probably want him to be like a different coach that was in your system outside of John Harbaugh, and that's Mike McDonald. You bring in and you see what Mike McDonald has been able to do in Seattle, taking what he understood from a defense perspective and having the Seattle defense climb to the heights that it is now as one of the best in all of football. And then also the hiring of Clint Kubiak. But that's what's important for Jesse Minter. Who is going to be the offensive coordinator that guides Lamar Jackson, that works side by side with Lamar Jackson? And can Eric DeCosta get him some of those pieces that, in my opinion, we learned was missing from this roster that we thought was so good early on in this season that seemed to have a ton of holes by the time the season ended?
Yeah, we'll continue to keep an eye on all of this news as it keeps going, and we've got more to get to. The coaching carousel continues to roll on. The Steelers interviewing Anthony Weaver, a candidate that we've said on this show. Dan said he was a big fan of even just yesterday. The Steelers interviewing Brian Flores, Mike McCarthy as well. There's a lot to get to here, so we welcome in our Steelers reporter, Brooke Pryor, for more as the Steelers continue their search to replace Mike Tomlin. Brooke, what is the latest out in Pittsburgh? And thank you for being here in studio with me.
I was going to say, that's the theme of the day is in person, but my version of being in person is actually leaving Pittsburgh. So I just did the opposite of what Anthony Weaver did today. But you know, it's funny, I was actually talking with a coach this morning who previously worked with Anthony Weaver on another staff, and the first thing he told me was leadership is off the charts. Another coach I talked with that worked with him said one word to describe this guy is focused. It is kind of crazy, though, to think about. We were just talking about a John Harbaugh descendant off of that lineage going to Baltimore. Imagine that in Pittsburgh. That's kind of crazy to think about. But he's 45. He fits the mold of what the Pittsburgh Steelers like. He is the third in-person candidate to interview Mike McCarthy, Brian Flores, Anthony Weaver. That means the Steelers have also now satisfied the Rooney Rule requirement. So they could hire someone at any time. But I don't think an organization that has only had 4 head coaches since 1969 is going to be rushing this hire. I would expect them maybe to take a little bit of time here. And one thing that was brought up to me in terms of these candidates coming into interview is that they are going to be interviewing Steelers brass as much as Steelers brass is interviewing them. How much resources are these guys going to have? Will the Steelers be willing to build out their analytics department, their assistant coaching staffs? Will they raise the salaries of those staffs? The facilities are also lag way behind the rest of the league. They share a practice facility with Pitt. There is not another team in the NFL that shares a practice facility with a college team. So there are a lot of things here that I think these candidates coming in are not going to be familiar with in their previous organizations, and they're going to need some assurances from ownership. Hey, you want to win right away. You don't want to have a year where you're not contending. Will you give me the resources to help me contend and compete in year one?
Yeah, as you well know, there's great cachet with this job, but I'm glad you brought up some of those points, especially the point about the assistant coach salaries. These head coaches, these candidates, they come in wanting to fill out their staffs, and money's a big piece of that. Thanks to Brooke for the latest there. Speaking of coaching news, how about this? According to ESPN sources, former Colts quarterback and current St. Michael Catholic High School coach Philip Rivers is interviewing today for the Buffalo Bills head coaching job. We'll keep an eye on that one. Philip Rivers has been a big part of the news cycle here lately. All right, it's conference championship weekend. We're going to make some game picks later on, so stay tuned to that. But more on the NFC matchup between the Rams and Seahawks. Let's welcome in Lindsey Theory and Brady Henderson. Let's start in L.A. Lindsey, what's the feel around the Rams practice as we get closer to this Rams' third matchup with Seattle this season?
Laura, I spoke with Sean McVay today, asked him what he's sensed from his team as they prepare for the NFC Championship. McVay tells me it's business as usual, and he loves that because consistency is important in these moments. Here's what he wants to see from his team: to be able to go cut it loose and have no regrets against what he calls a formidable opponent. So that's the mindset. As for the keys on the field, Matthew Stafford says they need to play fast, physical, and aggressive against this Seahawks defense. Stafford says he's certain the Seahawks will have something different to present them. He says that's always the case, and the key will be how they adapt to it. As meeting, Verse says, the way we do things is just how we are. We are not going to change anything up. Now to Brady with the Seahawks.
Thanks, Lindsey. One of the big talking points with the Seahawks and their top-ranked scoring defense this week is getting more pressure on Matthew Stafford. They did not sack him in either of the 2 games against the Rams this season. In fact, those were the only 2 games all year that Seattle's defense did not register a sack. Pro Bowl defensive lineman Leonard Williams in that Week 16 game in order to force the Rams into more pure drop-back situations on 3rd down so that Stafford can't simply get rid of the ball quickly before the pass rush arrives. Now, that game did start to turn in the second half when the Seahawks began putting more pressure on Stafford. As defensive coordinator Adam Dirty said on Thursday, the pressure and the hits, they do matter in terms of affecting quarterbacks, but the Seahawks are hoping that pressure translates to more sacks on Sunday. Laura?
Thanks, and a lot more to come here as we get you ready for these championship games. We'll focus in on the AFC. New England's 12th Super Bowl appearance could happen, but they got to get through Jarrett Stidham. How will their Patriots dial up their defense for the backup? Mike Reese has the answers, and you just heard Brady talking about that.
I mean, it's, you probably take it for granted, coaching and then getting another opportunity, and I've told him that. And so to do it with guys that are fun to be around and, again, nobody takes themselves too seriously, and they give it to me, I give it back to them, and, we try to get ready to go play a game.
It really is a fun team. Okay, for more on the Patriots-Broncos matchup, we welcome in our Patriots reporter, Mike Reese. And Mike, what's the Patriots defense saying about facing Sean Payton and that Broncos offense?
Well, Laura, let me lead off with some breaking news. Harold Landry, who led them in the regular season in sacks with 8.5, is not going to play in this game due to a knee injury. Anthony Jennings, a 6-year veteran who Mike Vrabel picked as a game captain this week, likely to step in for him. Going to give you two buzzwords on what they're saying about facing Sean Payton and this offense: volume and versatility. Those two things, Robert Spillane, the linebacker, told me they're going to see a lot of funky formations, a lot of motion, a lot of personnel groupings, and it's really going to test their discipline and their rules. The last thing I want to leave you with, Laura, Patriots have finished their practices this week. They're going to leave tomorrow. I asked Mike Vrabel about an hour ago, how did it go? He said, good energy, good juice, and great meetings all week.
That's good news for the Patriots. Appreciate you, Mike Reese, the latest there. And Jarrett Stidham on the other side could have his hands full against that Patriots pass rush, right? This has been blitzing like mad in the playoffs, this group. Quarterbacks completing only 38% of their passes, down 20% from the regular season. They also have more interceptions and touchdowns in the last two games. Certainly we saw what they did against C.J. Stroud. They've been really good. Mina, New England has had a lot of success when sending the blitz this postseason. Do you see this as a problem for Jarrett Stidham on Sunday?
I do. I think it's something he's going to have to face a lot. So going back and watching Jarrett Stidham's tape, both the regular season and the preseason, what struck me, Dan, I know you did the same, we talked about this, was when he's playing, he's an accurate quarterback. He can throw the ball downfield. Yep. A lot of the same throws we've seen Bo Nix make. The issue, to me, is when he faces pressure. And the last time he played in the regular season for the Broncos, 5 sacks, did not perform well under pressure. Whereas I think Bo Nix's ability to avoid sacks is one of his greatest attributes as a quarterback. He has the 3rd lowest pressure to sack rate in football. So here comes a Patriots defense that has not only been blitzing a lot in the postseason, but I think will want to do so, especially given how good this Broncos offensive line is relative to the ones they face. So I think for Stidham and for Sean Payton, you have to come in with a plan for those blitzes, and he has to play fast because it's when he doesn't that things start to get a little bit shaky.
Yeah, I know we do this job and we get paid and we on the same show together, but Mina just said every single thing that I was going to talk about with defense and Jarrett Stidham.
Like she said.
And look, the reality is, it's the obvious. Yeah, the reality is it's the obvious. A guy that hadn't played in a long time in the AFC Championship, you want to speed up his processing. And you don't only have to do that by blitzing, you do that by disguising, you do that by giving them different coverages, and not really being, you don't have to be so intricate. Just speed this game up and see if he can respond, and you adjust from there. I'm assuming that's what Mike Vrabel and his defense is doing. They sped the game up for C.J. Stroud. They sped the game up for quarterbacks that's been playing all season long. And this defense deserves a ton of credit for their discipline, as Mina talked about. They're seemingly always in the right spot. They contain quarterbacks, and they bring pressure in the center of the pocket, which I'm sure Jarrett Stidham is going to have to deal with quite a bit this week.
That is the #1 hardest thing for a quarterback to have to figure out after he hasn't played. Just how fast is this game going to move on me? The feel of color, not only from the line, but windows when you're trying to throw to them. Marcus, I wanted to ask you this straight up. Milton Williams, playing better right now than he did last year on the Eagles Super Bowl run?
Yeah.
Bro, he's been
more reps. more reps, probably more volume. You're seeing him make more plays. It was a significant rotation in Philly. So
yeah,
I think it's just more plays and more opportunities he's having.
Yeah.
Man, they put him and Barmore on the field, and that pass rush just goes. They've been very good in the run game, but I didn't like the pairing of those guys has totally stunted teams' ability and willingness to run the football. Obviously, we've talked about those backers a ton this year, and then what it's allowed is that pass rush to just get going. And when that pass rush gets going with Williams and Barmore and then Chase on in their games, it's a problem. I think it's a huge part of this game from really not just Jared Stidham's standpoint. Yes, deal with that, but it really comes down to how is Sean Payton going to protect against that plan-wise? How is he going to have an idea of, I don't want to have to deal with those two interior D tackles too much. Go, if I take my two guards and center and deal with those tackles, then those edges are one-on-ones. And I think that's a problem with Chase on. So I think it's huge for Sean, just figuring out how he wants to handle those two interior run-stopping D tackles, but also really good in the pass rush game.
I hope somebody clipped off Marcus's original answer to that question. Yeah.
He was phenomenal in that Super Bowl run too. That's why he got $100 million.
Yeah,
you could see him like revisiting the highlights in his brain.
It's somewhere there.
Yeah.
All right, let's continue on this game. We got to bring RC in here, and we're going to bring him in for the really heavy-hitting stuff here. Time now for a play sheet presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. RC, over under 225.5 pass yards for Drake May.
This isn't very hard hitting, but I'm going to go under. I think that they're going to really utilize Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson in this game. This game is going to be about not turning the football over. Drake May protects the football well in the past, but we've seen him get loose in the pocket and fumble some down the stretch. I look for him to utilize his legs, and so I'm going to go under on 225 passing yards.
Okay, what about over under a half passing touchdown for Jarrett Stidham?
I went over just because, I don't want to be disrespectful. I get it. You're playing against a defense that's only given up one touchdown in the entire playoffs. A defense that's been incredibly stingy. Held Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers to 3 points. Turned C.J. Stroud over 4 times in the first half. But I do believe that them having to figure out a little bit about Jarrett Stidham as he figures out a little bit about them may give him an opportunity to put one into the end zone.
Okay, give us an anytime touchdown scorer.
Ramondre Stevenson, I feel like his resurgence in these playoffs have really helped Drake May and also this offense. You think about him in the past game, 75 yards against the Chargers, 70 yards rushing against the Houston Texans to salt that game away late. I feel like he needs to be big in this game as well. He has to protect the football. He had some issues with that early on in the season, but he...
Look at some of the numbers specifically on these games as we head into conference championship weekend. What's on trend for the Final Four teams? We start in Seattle. The Seahawks' pressure defense has been outstanding recently, allowing only 19 points over their last 3 games. They've also only allowed 1 touchdown in that span. Mina, do you see this trend continuing for Seattle's defense?
I don't think to that extent. 2 of those games were against the Niners, and it was a lot of Brock Purdy trying to make plays happen, which invited pressure because he was holding on to the football. But that said, going back and watching Week 16, one thing that jumped out to me, first 3 quarters, Seahawks got very little pressure, 15% rate. Then in the 4th quarter, more than doubled. You saw Leonard Williams and the other pass rushers show up in a big way. They're going to have to in this one for more than 1 quarter, I think, to win this game.
Let's go to Denver now, where history tells us if you start a different quarterback in the conference championship than you did in the divisional round, you likely aren't going to win. That lone exception was the 1992 Bills, who started backup Frank Reich first. Starter Jim Kelly was hurt, okay? Kelly came back for the AFC Championship game and won, though. Dan, does the trend continue in Denver on Sunday?
Yeah, I think that trend continues for the backup quarterbacks. We've watched this Patriots defense really minimize 2 good quarterbacks in the last 2 weeks of the playoffs in C.J. Stroud and Justin Herbert, and candidly make them look terrible. Sean Payton's absolutely outstanding. This is a good offense in Denver. This is the first time this guy's going to be playing in 3 years. I think that trend continues.
Let's go to the other side of the AFC Championship matchup with the Patriots, the only team yet to lose a road game this season. Not hard to see why. New England scored nearly 30 points per game away from Foxborough, but the Patriots have never won a playoff game in Denver. They're 0-4. RC, will the Patriots stay unbeaten on the road?
I do believe so, but it's not because of the statistics you showed me from the offense. It's because of the way this defense has been playing for Zach Kerr throughout these playoffs. We already talked about Milton Williams, the impact he's making. And what stood out to me last week was the way this team is tied together on all three levels, especially in their blitz and cover packages. You can see the quarterback having to figure out post-snap what's happening. And think about a guy like Jarrett Stidham, who hasn't taken a snap in a regular season game, much less an AFC playoff game in a long time.
Let's go to L.A., where the Rams continue to win nail-biters in the playoffs under Sean McVay. McVay has 6 playoff wins in games decided by 3 points or fewer, and he's in pretty good company, just one shy of the NFL record. That includes both games this postseason. Marcus, does the trend continue versus the Seahawks?
Boogie, I say this with a lot of reservation. I don't believe so. The LA Rams have been teetering these last 2 weeks in the playoffs. I don't think they walked away with a ton of confidence in their performances that they put together 2 weeks back to back. And now you get the Seattle Seahawks at home, the 12th man, one of the best defenses in the NFL, the best defense left in this playoffs. I don't believe that the Rams can just hover around being mediocre for majority of this game and thinking that they're going to come through on the last second drive with what Seattle has on the defensive side. So if it is close and they need a drive for a touchdown, I don't believe that trend continues.
Yeah, I see why you say it with reservation, right? Both these teams have been so good in so many different moments. But, Dan, how do you see Stafford and that offense attacking the stout Seattle defense in what will be their third match of the season? There's so much familiarity on both sides.
Yeah, we've broken this game down in and out all week. There's 13 personnel, the pressure from Seattle and the way they tackle and their edges and the way they'll pressure. I think one thing that if the Rams are able to look back on and win this game, from a quarterback perspective, you're going to get 3 to 5 chances this game to hit big plays. I do not expect a Week 16 performance again where it's almost a shootout. You got to hit them. You got to hit the big plays because this defense is just too good. And if you drop back and you have these misses, this defense is going to hunt. And so this isn't going to be something where Matthew's got to hit 10 of those explosive throws, but you're going to get a handful of opportunities to make them happen. When they're there, you got to make them happen. I would say the other thing is this. This Seattle team has scored 8 non-offensive touchdowns this year. 8. They've got 5 on special teams and 3 on defense. This is an eyelash game. If you're the Rams, you can't give cheap points away to this football team with this defense at home. That's gotta be a absolute X across the screen for giving Seattle a non-offensive touchdown this game.
Yeah, I mean, this game turned on a punt return from Rashid Shaheed in the second meeting in Seattle. And we watched the way the game started against the San Francisco 49ers for Seattle as well. I do wonder when Mike McDonald watches the tape, it sees the pressure packages of the Carolina Panthers and the Chicago Bears affecting the Rams' protection and Matt Stafford in the way that it has the last 2 weeks. How much do they ramp that up? And a person that I think everyone should be paying attention to is Nick Emanwari. I mean, he's the slot guy that can move around, play second level, be one-on-one with tight ends, add pressure, and he's also involved in a lot of their disguise packages. So I want to see what his utilization will be and how that will affect Matthew Stafford. And it goes to Dan's point about not missing. He'll have opportunities, Matthew Stafford that is, to hit some of these holes in the blitzes and the blitz coverages, but he has to make them count because there won't be many.
You know, the blitzes are fascinating to me. Ryan, you talked about the Rams struggling against those in the Chicago game, because when I went back and watched 16, Seattle also blitzed their DBs a few times. But one difference was that I think is really meaningful. They did it when Stafford was in the gun and he torched them. When he turned his back to the defense and had a pass rusher in his face, he struggled, as he did against Chicago. So I think for Seattle, that's a way to get him out from those under-center looks, because he was able to kill them with play action, as he has all season long. So then it becomes Matthew Stafford in the gun, train this defense. There's no, he's the quarterback who's certainly capable of doing that. But to Dan's point, he's going to have to hit on a few big plays out of those looks. It's not going to be as easy.
I'm also interested to see, guys, how much. Obviously, we know Puka is going to have high usage in this game, but how many ways can you find opportunities to get him the ball, and can you make them pay with him on some of those blitzes? Obviously, they hit the little over route with him that went for a touchdown late in that Week 16 game, and just kept kind of needling at that spot. I'm just interested to see the adjustment from Mike McDonald. RC, you bring up a great point with Imaware, because, one, you do want him pressuring with the speed that he brings off, but if they get in 13 personnel, do you want him matched up on some of those tight ends and not giving away so much size? It's an interesting chess match. I think the reservation that we all have, and for everybody that's been watching the Rams, they have not been the normal performing offense that we had grown accustomed to for the past 2 weeks, which gives you a little bit of concern going into this game after you seeing how dominant Seattle defense has been.
I think for Seattle, Marcus, to just pick up back off what you said, you got to bring Puka down. He killed them with the ball in his hands, as he does everybody, I know. But McVay made a focus to go after the linebackers in Seattle. You mentioned the crosser, for example. If that happens again, you cannot if you're Seattle, you can't let an 8-yard completion become a 15-plus yard one.
God, he's so
and to that, then Ernest Jones has to have one of those games we saw last week as well then. Ernest Jones, if you look at a lot of those plays from Puka, the dig for a touchdown late in the game, Ernest Jones was the hook player there. He catches a glance early on in the game as well. Ernest Jones is running middle runner. And so those are going to be plays that Ernest Jones has to step up on, because it did seem like Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay targeted that area of the field.
Yeah, Stafford had 27 passing touchdowns versus the blitz in the regular season. None.
11-4 minute when we get a pass and we finish off the game. Throws like that are kind of the most satisfying when you end the game, or in this case within the season. That'd be pretty cool.
He's so mature. All right, time for That's Cap with our research producer Evan Kaplan. Cap, is Drake May signaling something for us to watch out for in this Patriots-Broncos matchup?
Yeah, it certainly sounds like it, Laura. And that deep ball matchup when the Patriots have the ball is going to be one of the biggest things that decides the game on Sunday. We're going to step back for a second here and just talk about how great Drake May was during the regular season. Led the NFL in completion percentage, 72%. But look at this number here. This is expected completion percentage from NFL Next Gen, takes into account pressure, throw distance, target separation. This number was 62.9%. So look at the difference. Drake May completed 9% higher than expected according to Next Gen. This is the highest in any of the 10 seasons that they've been tracking this. Now, what is one of the reasons why he was so efficient overall? It was that deep ball. We're talking about passes 15-plus yards downfield, including the playoffs, 14 touchdowns. Most in the NFL. We saw the one to Kayshon Boutte early in the fourth quarter last week, completing 57% of those throws, and 44 of his 74 completions, 15-plus yards downfield, 3 or fewer yards of separation at the target. So he's not just throwing on air, throwing these balls into tight windows, and he's going to need to do that on Sunday against this Broncos defense, who on these 15-yard throws, allowing 32% completion percentage. That's first in the NFL. And check out this number. Their last 19 attempts the Broncos have faced, 15 or more yards downfield, 0 completions. Josh Allen was 0 for 8 on these throws last week. So RC, as great as Drake May has been this season, with Patrick Surtain in this Broncos secondary, I'm saying they're going to be able to limit him downfield, keep it close for Jarrett Stidham in the offense.
Yeah, no doubt. Listen, I'm saying Cap twice. First of all, it's Cap. Let me tell you why it's Cap. Let Let me tell you why. Because you got Patrick Surtain up there, like they gonna be throwing the ball at Patrick Surtain. Right. If you'd have had Riley Moss on that board, then I would have been with you. They not throwing that ball at number 2. It's gonna be Kyle Williams on Riley Moss, or it's gonna be Kayshon Boutte on Riley Moss. Because the one thing that's different about Patrick Surtain and Derek Stingley is that technique-wise, Pat locks in every single play. And I expect Jaquan McMillan to draw Stephon Diggs for much of this game in the slot because that's where he does a lot of his work. So to me, it's going to be which matchup and what opportunities Drake May gets on Riley Moss because they're expecting at worst an incomplete, at best you get a catch, and if not, maybe you get a pass interference.
Yeah, don't make misses scare you. We were just talking about Seattle and the Rams game, and I said, and we all thought, Matthew's not going to get a ton of shots to push the ball downfield. Drake May will. Drake May will. Don't worry about if you miss 1 or 2. Keep taking them. It's almost like Houston last week where in this game, you are going to get all-out pressure in this game at some point. You got to kill it. You can't survive this zero pressure from Denver's defense. You got to kill it. Yeah. If you don't, it's going to keep coming. I think if he plays from that mindset the way that Josh did last week, I think he's got a chance to have some relative good success down the field.
Yeah, just copy Josh's success with the quick game. He was like 12 for 14 for 134 yards. And then don't copy the fumbles and the misses downfield, and you can win this game, Drake May. The quick game is what I want to mention, though, because that has been a vulnerability of this Broncos defense. When and quarterbacks hold on to the ball for over 2.5 seconds, they're second league-wide in EPA per play. But underneath that, they drop to 17th. A lot of it is going after the linebackers. The Bills did this. They went after Alex Singleton in coverage a fair amount. I really like the Broncos tight ends here. If you can get, I would say this should be an outsized, or probably Patriots tight ends.
Patriots.
Hooper and Henry. I think that's a matchup you want to take advantage of. And then again, to focus on quick game, Stephon Diggs. You mentioned it. Diggs on McMillan, ball out quick, give him the opportunity to get yards after the catch.
Yeah, some of that, where I'm gonna lead to is a remedy. But y'all, last week looking at Houston, and I know that's a different animal. It was a lot of pressure on Drake May. It was a lot of times the ball got knocked out of his hand on the backside. I'm concerned about these tackles with Benito and Cooper. Michael Roach is playing out of his mind right now. I know we don't talk about him a lot because Zach is over there, but ultimately this defensive line, man, is going to have opportunities in this game when it's just a 4-man rush. They have to, one, be conscious of Drake's legs as well, but I think they can impact this game in a major way. Vance Joseph, obviously, Dan, to your point, he's going to bring those pressures. He's going to bring zero. But ultimately, this game is going to come down to the phone booth up front with this defensive line. If the Denver Broncos have any shot at getting after the New England Patriots and creating opportunities to take the ball away offensively, it's going to be taking advantage of this offensive line in obvious pass situations when they don't bring an extra rusher. So that's the matchup that I'll be watching as this game go forward. Because remember, it was 3 strip sack fumbles against the Houston Texans. I think Houston only got 1 back. But so the ball bounces differently in different games. That'll be a matchup I'm searching for.
Let's pick this game. I'm a little nervous for all of us here because something happened last week where y'all got dunked on. But look at this. Somebody here saved the day for all of you. Y'all can thank me later. Listen, I don't like to see the team get dunked on like that, so I picked the Broncos. I realized Jarrett Stidham hadn't played in forever, and maybe I did this for the Patriots. I don't know. But either way,
we're not worthy.
There's a path, Laura. There's a path.
There's a path, right?
Yeah. I feel like if we all would have picked them and they
won,
not
impossible.
Maybe they would have praised us.
Yeah.
Maybe they would have been like, well, look, they learned their lesson.
Yeah.
Nah, they don't say nice things.
Listen, they didn't let me do last week, so I fixed it this week. We got more coming your way here on NFL Live. We're making another game pick that you don't want to miss. Let's see where everybody goes in that one. But the NFC West battle is ready to go. How ready is Sam Darnold, though, for his first championship moment? We got the latest out of Seattle coming your way. This vaunted Seattle defense, so much to discuss in this game, and that's what we're going to do here. Marcus, what are you watching out for with this Rams defense against Sam Darnold specifically?
Not giving up explosive plays. That was the story of the game for this defense, and it's been one of their Achilles heel as they've been going throughout the. After that, and you get a 26-yard touchdown by Barton. So it's here. This is all in one game. And this defense has been prone to giving this up. We can go back to the last regular season game with the Atlanta Falcons. Take last week with the Chicago Bears as well. At the end of game situations, they are going to have to be conscious of this and force Sam Darnold to methodically push the ball down the field. Because if you give up these explosives, this may be a quick out for the Los Angeles Rams in these playoffs.
Wow. And if you're the Los Angeles Rams as well, you're going to have to force some turnovers. When you look at this team, when they don't force turnovers, especially the back half of the season, they've struggled. And they've been able to do that against Sam Darnold, 6 interceptions in the 2 games this season. But for Sam Darnold offensively, I want to know if you can be the team that you were for the fourth quarter and overtime against the Los Angeles Rams in the second game. Can Kenneth Walker III continue to play at the level that he Shaheed in the run game, in the quick passing game, to get yards after the catch and just put the ball in his hands? And then what we saw late in that game from Jackson Smith and Jigba, and to me, Sam Darnold's throw of the year on the post corner to Cooper Kupp, will some of that confidence carry over into the NFC Championship?
Yeah, I think for me, for Seattle, everything flows from their ability to run the football, and this has been what's kind of rejuvenated the offense a bit as of late. And they ran the ball really well on LA, and then the play-action pass flowed from that. They hit the screen to Walker. You talked about the throwback, the leak pass to Barner. Rams in that game played a ton of base defense, and they got shredded in it. Now they're coming off of a game versus Chicago where I thought they were excellent against the run. Some of that was Cam Curl coming into the box a little bit, but they've got Quentin Lake back. So I think for Chris Shula, the question is, do you trust your lighter bodies to stop the Seattle run game? Because if not, I think they could get thrown on again.
Yeah, I just want to make sure everyone understands the girl that graduated Yale just said flued, okay? So don't ever call us.
Well, honestly, guys, JT say sometimes you get flued out. You be getting flued out, too.
Okay, you
mean all kind of stuff.
Okay, you know what? I wasn't going to air this out, Dan, but you thought glutton was spelled gluten in the group chat.
Yeah,
so
he did.
I have receipts.
He said gluten, but he spelled it gluten. Yeah, that's bread. Hey, you know what? By the way, Dan, you just sacrificed your time, so we're going to put up our game picks here instead of listening to you. But we will go to you here because Dan is rescuing us. We have 4 of us on the Seahawks. Dan goes with the Rams. Why, Dan? Why are you going there, other than Stafford?
I'd rather be wrong than unloyal.
I like that. That doesn't, that seemingly.
I love it.
Wait, unloyal is not a word. It's disloyal.
You never played for the Rams?